Hello guys, it's me Butterfly Spirit 314. So guys, today what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about the dating app Hinged. I heard about this dating app called Hinged from a coworker of mine. He's in another department, but like he sits in the row across from me. And so he's been talking about, like, week after week, I'll hear him talk about meeting women. And these are women that he'll meet on the dating app called Hinged. And first, he'll start off by, talking to them on the app. Then, eventually it'll move to like him texting the ladies. And then eventually, what happens is that he will take them out on dates. And he's talked about how, he's met woman after woman after woman after woman. And he's gone on different dates with these ladies, and they always break up with him. And, he's a nice guy. He's 45 years old. He has his own place and everything. He's trying to, get married, have kids and everything. Has a nice 9 to 5 job. He does drink or whatever and stuff. And he talks about how, he will, he's happy to pay to take women on dates and stuff. He talked about how he took one lady on a date on a helicopter ride. So, with helicopter rides, I believe like you have to pay like I think he said like you pay like I think like for a 5 minute ride you pay like $50 a person and stuff to go on that particular ride or something like that. And I could be completely wrong about the price. So he took this one lady on a helicopter ride. There was another lady he met. He, took her to a pottery place or whatever. This was a lady that had kids and stuff. So he was open to dating a lady who had kids. And basically, they went to this event where they were able to paint pottery together. And she wanted him to buy stuff for her kids and stuff. So he basically paid for the whole day, bought stuff for her kids and everything. And, she broke up with him. There was another lady who recently he was going to be going on a float trip that he had already planned to go on, but he wanted to take this like a lady he met with them because they seemed to have really good chemistry and everything. And like a day or so before the float trip, this lady broke it off with him. And so, he's frustrated. He's talking about how he's meeting these different women and stuff. He wants to find a good relationship and everything with the woman and stuff. A lot of his guy friends are, they're married or in a serious relationships and stuff. And he feels frustrated because he keeps being broken up with by these ladies on Hinged. And what I have to say about that is that it seems to suck, because as a man, he's spending all this money on these ladies. And, the reasons that these ladies will give for why they're breaking up. One lady he was talking to, he had spent a lot of money on her, took her out on different dates and stuff. And then she basically stopped, texting him and everything like that. And he figured he got friend zoned, but then eventually he kind of figured out he did. So he stopped talking to her. He started talking to another lady, then starts talking to this other lady. And then this girl he was going to take to a wedding and stuff. And then this lady, she was like, well, I want to get back with my ex, and work things out. I think this lady was divorced or something, and she wanted to reconcile with her ex or whatever and things. And I think this brings up an interesting circumstance to me that when it comes to a man's experience of a dating app, you can have these really nice guys, very genuine, very nice, hardworking and stuff, and they can be on these dating apps. And the women they're meeting, it just seems like from my coworker's perspective, that many of these women are just users. And he talked about how he took this lady on a date, this other lady on a date, and she refused to pay for anything. He was always the one to, always be willing to pay. And, he wanted to ask her to pay, but she was always like really sketchy about like not wanting to even, pay for any part of the date and stuff. So it just sounds like, from his perspective, and I'm sure there are other men out there who are like really frustrated with, the dating apps, because it seems like a lot of these women on there are just users, and that they're just, Some of them are wanting a free meal. Some of them are, on dating apps because maybe they're trying to make a ex jealous or something like that. And it just seems like, you know, from a man's perspective, that dating apps really suck and they're not really worth it. But anyway, tell me what you guys think from your perspective. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.